Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome back once again. Today we're going to be taking a look at a really cool new knife, new design by Liong Mah that he calls the KUF, the KUF, which stands for the Kitchen Utility Folder. And I think this is exactly what a lot of people have been asking for. You know, when you look at a lot of different knives like I do, and you talk about a lot of different knives, whether it be here on YouTube or on forums or on any kind of social media, you're always going to get people that are going to jump in and judge the knife based on its utility only. I can't believe you buy such a pretty knife because I can't do anything with it. It's not useful for this need and that need and that need. Oh, I can't believe you spent more than $15 on a knife. There's no utility to that. You'd never work out hard with a knife that costs more than $8.75. It wasn't designed for this. It wasn't designed for that. One of the cool things about Liong is he designs practicality in almost every knife that he makes. And whether it be a small knife, a large knife, it doesn't really matter. No matter how dolled up it is, no matter how fancy it may be, there's always a degree of practicality. And this one really takes that whole premise to another level. The reason why it's going to be so practical is this blade shape. Now, I want to call it a modified sheep's foot. Maybe you want to call it a reverse tanto sheep's foot. Whatever designation you put on it, it's a very useful blade. What you may not be able to tell just from looking at the pictures is there's a very slight curvature to the actual cutting edge. It's not a completely flat, straight cutting edge. Also, it drops down a good degree further than the handle. So when you've got a grip on this knife, you could still do quite a bit of cutting. Now, you might actually want to be holding it like this if you were chopping vegetables or whatever. And I'm going to agree with what Liong says on his website, that you may not actually use this in your kitchen. It may be more of a field knife, more of a daily EDC style knife, but what you've got is the profile and overall general feeling of a general use kitchen knife. That's what it was designed after, but made with the practicality of being an EDC folder with a pocket clip and titanium frame lock and all that jazz. So what you've got is a blade that you can do very, very easy cutting tasks. It's super sharp. It's S35VN steel, so it's going to take a fine edge. It's going to be very corrosion resistant, so it's not really a knife that you're going to be afraid to use. Let's start with the specifications, the price, and all that. Then we'll break down how the knife actually comes out, how it feels in the hand, and what I think of it. First off, these are $375. In today's world of custom knives, which, you know, these are production knives, however, they're very limited run. With the way that these knives are made, it's very easy to compare them to mid-tech or even custom knives in some cases because of all of the detailed work that goes into them. $375 is a drop in the bucket. Now, if you're the type of consumer that only buys very inexpensive production style knives, maybe you spend $100 max, $375 sounds like a lot of money. I'll give you that. But I want you to take a look at what you've got compared to what you're getting in this knife and see if it helps you understand what the difference in price really is. You know, your knife probably doesn't have Westinghouse micarta or aerospace grade carbon fiber, and I'll dig a little bit more into that a little bit later. Your knife probably doesn't have a sculpted titanium pocket clip. It probably has a very cheap base metal or steel spring clip that takes no real effort to manufacture. Your knife probably doesn't have titanium hardware. This does. Your knife probably doesn't have ceramic bearings to keep the action super smooth and lightning fast. These do. So and your knife probably doesn't have S35VN steel either in that price range that you're typically buying in. So just in materials alone, I hope you can understand that there is a justification for that higher price on a utility knife. And that really is what this is. This is a no frills, no flash utility knife. Perfect for the EDC crowd. Another reason I feel it's perfect is the utterly insane lightweight. Now, the micarta is just a teeny tiny bit heavier than the carbon fiber. This carbon fiber is ridiculously lightweight. 4¼ ounces. I want you to really think about that. And I'll tell you right now, it doesn't even feel like it's 4¼ ounces. I would have pegged this at least an ounce lighter. That's how it feels. This is a full-sized EDC style folder, guys. You're looking at just a tick over 8½ inches overall. You're looking at a 4-inch blade. Now, generally a knife that weighs this little, that we consider an EDC knife, you're looking 3-inch, 3¼ inch, maybe 3½ inch. This is a 4-inch blade. You've got 3¾ inches for the cutting area for the actual sharpened edge of the blade. 156 thousandths thick blade stock, so it's respectable. I think that's right around, that's actually thicker than a Sebenza. I don't have a Sebenza here in front of me, but I've had one for years, a couple for years, and I do believe this is a little bit thicker than a Sebenza. You've got a lot going on here that should dictate this is going to be a bear to carry. It's going to be heavy, it's going to be obnoxious, and it's really not. It's slim, it's extraordinarily lightweight, and it gets that from the, I don't know if we can really see it in there, there we go, the milled pockets inside of the titanium. And they've gone super deep with those machine pockets. So they've taken out as much material as they could and still maintained a good foundation for a strong structure. Guys, I'm telling you right now, if you've ever wanted a great looking knife, but it had to be something that you're not afraid to use, that is actually designed to be, I don't want to say beat on, but to be used on a daily basis, this might be a really good way for you to go. Let's take a look at them one at a time. We'll start with my favorite, which is the carbon fiber. So when I mentioned earlier that this is aerospace grade carbon fiber, that's not just a tagline. The carbon fiber here comes from A&J Composites, and what Nate does is he gets military aerospace surplus. That's where his carbon fiber comes from. So, you know, the sections of carbon fiber that he gets, there's a very good chance that it was cut off of a piece that was used on, you know, maybe a stealth bomber or whatever it is that they're building at the time. This is the legitimate real deal. It also finishes beautifully. I use Nate's carbon fiber exclusively on the knives that I make. I think it's just unbelievable, fantastic stuff. It's great to work with, and whether you're going to polish it, whether you're just doing a high grit finish on it, or you're doing a matte finish, there's something about the character inside of the carbon fiber that just pops, and it looks really good. So because of the limited nature of this carbon fiber, only 90 of the carbon fiber version were made. So if you're looking at the carbon fiber version, realize you're buying one of 90. If you like the brown canvas micarta, that is Westinghouse canvas micarta, only 40 of these were made, because that's an even more limited material there, so keep that in mind. So getting past the carbon fiber, then you get into the hardware. The hardware is titanium, that's why it's anodized. So nice blue anodized pivot, blue anodized sculpted milled pocket clip with a single contact point, and it's sunken down into a pocket so that there's no movement this way off that, what would basically be a pivot point. If it weren't sunken in, it could just kind of rotate back and forth. So they did a really good job on that. Nice clean finishing on the titanium, nothing overly flashy. Here you've got a carbon fiber back spacer. On the brown you would have, yeah, this is actually a bronzed titanium. So that's another reason why this one's a little bit lighter, because you've got carbon fiber for the back spacer instead of the additional titanium. They did a really nice job contouring this. It's not overly done, it's still mostly flat, but it's got just a little bit of curvature. And they've chamfered the edges all the way around, so it basically just knocks off that sharp 90-degree edge all the way around. jimping up here on the spine of the blade, it's not really all that sharp. I mean, if I was really pushing down into it, it might keep my thumb from slipping. But I do think they could have done a little bit better making it just a little bit grabbier. But it kind of has a sawtooth look to it. It's a very aggressive look. And maybe if it was a little bit sharper, it might be too much, especially on the edges. What you would normally do with any kind of severe jimping is you would go up the edges of it at about a 45-degree angle and knock that sharp edge off. However, again, this is a production knife, not a custom. Maybe they don't have the time to sit down and do that sort of thing. I really like the grind on this. It's simple, it's clean, it's useful. Again, that blade shape with just that little bit of belly to it. Let's give you a good idea of the lockup. Give it a nice, good, hard, and fast open with the wrist. And you see there, nice early lockup, but not too early. You do have a stainless steel lock face there. So you have steel on steel, and you see I am ripping it out. And there's not even a hint of lock stick. Very, very well done. Almost a trapezoidal cut thumb opening here. It's actually pretty easy to get into. Whether you're flicking it or you're slowly opening it, it's pretty easy to get into. I'm not a big fan of those. I do prefer the Spyderco hole just because this changes its angle and moves against the the pad of your thumb as you're opening it. I'm not a huge fan of that. Not a big deal. Not a deal breaker by any means, and it may not bother people at all. It could just be a picky thing with me. But it does certainly enhance the look. It gives it a bit of an aggressive look for such a utilitarian knife. The pocket clip is reversible, so you could take it off here, pop it right in there, if you happen to be a lefty. I really don't have much to nitpick with this knife, and it really is a very, very, very simple knife. There's not a lot of flash here. There's not a lot of unnecessary milling and decoration. This really was meant to be that everyday guy's knife. Now, the everyday guy may not be able to spend $375. I will go back to that. But for me to look at a knife, I generally spend a lot more on my knives. So for me, this kind of looks like a value. If I knew that I was going out and doing anything particularly, I don't know, knife damaging for whatever reason, I was going camping or hiking, that's never ever gonna happen. But if I were to all of a sudden get a bug up my butt to go do that, I would probably open up my cases and decide on the knives that I would carry. And when it came down to the folder, I mean, obviously I would want to carry some fixed blades, but when it came down to the folder, am I gonna want to risk a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 knife or a $375 knife? And that's where you start looking at it going, oh yeah, now I see the value. I wouldn't go out and go batoning with a folder anyway, but if I were going to go batoning with any of the knives that I have, it would be a $375 knife. It would also be a knife that would live up to the task. Got a great cutting edge on it. It's fine enough to where you can slice paper nice and thin. And I don't know if you can be slicing tomatoes and stuff in the kitchen. I haven't tried that because these knives are going back to Liong. It's not fair for me to go out and, get food all over them. But it seems like the angle that's been used here on the edge is gonna lend itself well to pretty much any cutting task at all. And that's not something I really ever cared about. I mean, you've never really heard me mention that in very many of my videos, unless it was like a Rockstead video or Pohan Lube, because those were really dedicated cutting instruments. But as I've started making knives and I've started looking at the designs that I'm doing and why I'm designing them, there are certain things. I have certain knives that are made to be slicers, and I have some that are made to be a little bit more tough, for chopping and things like that. So I choose to use very, very different angles on my grinds, especially on that final edge, so that it's, benefiting the user for those types of things. And this is the kind of edge that, in my opinion, is a good all-around, everyday. It's not going to excel at one thing. It's just going to do really well at a lot of things. And that may be exactly what you're looking for. Will these go up in value? That's the question I get a lot in messages when I look at certain knives. I don't know. Again, these are made by Riat Knives. They're made in China. Some people feel there's no aftermarket value to that, but we all see that's not true. Anything that Riat has made and no longer makes tends to go up in value. Some very, very little, and some have gone up quite a substantial amount, because people recognize that they are superior quality knives to anything comparatively made in its price range. They tend to use better materials. They tend to put more thought into their design. They're not usually boring knives. And the actions and the lockups and everything are always fantastic. And that's exactly why Liong has gone with them. That's why Todd Begg, when Todd Begg was looking to make that first one, the Quaken, the first production knife, that's why he went with Riat Knives, because through all the searching that they did, interviewing and talking to every mid-tech and production maker in the game in the United States, looked at the quality that was available in the currently made knives by those people, looking at their pricing structure, and then comparing that line by line by line with Riat Knives. Riat won that contract, and Liong's and many other people's, because the quality is as good, and in some cases vastly better than what's been available in the US market to custom knife makers who choose to do mid-tech and production runs at a substantially lower cost. I can tell you right now, I have been considering doing the exact same thing. I have a folder design based off one of my fixed blades that I've been wanting to do. And when I got the final costs on everything, and by the way, that was also using S35 VN steel on a titanium frame lock, my final cost from beginning to end was over $400 a knife. This you're buying at $375. I looked at that, and I'll tell you right now, it's Riat Knives that made me say, oh hell no. 3 years ago, if I paid it was about $425 to have a knife made, and I put it out there for $600, which is a fair amount of profit. That's basically what you would expect. It would have sold if it was a good knife. Today, you could not go out there at $600 because of knives made by Riat that come out here at $375, $400, $425, $475 that are very, very close in quality, in aesthetics, and feel to knives that are selling for 2 times the price and more. So while it's great to have Riat out there and making such great knives, it's also kind of hurt people that are trying to compete in that $500 to $800 price range, unless it's a full custom. So that's why we're seeing a lot less really great mid-techs out there. I should say a lot fewer, that's proper English. And why a lot of people are going to Riat, why they're going to WE Knives, why they're going overseas. They're being selective. They're not finding just any factory in China to make them a knife, but they're looking at high quality. They're looking at great materials, and they're getting a superior product that people can more easily afford. And that's really the name of the game right now. So I told you, I don't really care for that particular type of opening. That's just me. But it's not really made to be flicked either, so that's more my fault than the knife's. So that's basically it. That's my thoughts. I honestly think that if you want something that's a good full-size folder, that's extraordinarily lightweight, has a useful blade shape, has great blade steel, and by the way, I didn't even talk about the finish. Look how bright that stonewash finish is. It's so bright that I actually had to put on a shirt real quick, because I came up here without a shirt on, and I started to do the video and went, oh man, that's a lot more reflective than I expected it to be. Now, I'm still not wearing any pants, but you guys can't see that far down anyway. When you look at everything that you're getting, I think it is a good EDC choice. I like the materials. I'm not a big fan of brown canvas micarta. That's just a personal thing. I also don't like Thunderstrike Kevlar because I don't like the color. I don't like anything OD green. That's just my own personal hang-ups. But there are a lot of people out there that really do like it, and it's got a really great finish to it. It's super smooth. They did a great polish on this. One of the things that could be a pain in the butt when it comes to micarta, especially canvas micarta, is you'll get these dead spots. No matter how much you polish, no matter what color the micarta is, you get these dull spots, these dead spots that don't bring color out and actually will come out white. And there's very, very little of that. This is a nice, evenly colored, evenly polished, well done piece of micarta. Micarta, by the way, is very, very, very strong stuff while still maintaining a lightweight feel. Same idea with carbon fiber. Again, I think the only difference that I'm noticing in the weight is probably in the back spacer. Anodized titanium versus carbon fiber. So you're losing, and it's a very small amount of weight, but I do happen to notice it. So there you have it, guys. Two great examples, a little over 8.5 inches overall, 4-inch blade, plenty of useful space on that blade. And if you're searching for something that's cool, that's lightweight, that's easy to carry, and has a great degree of functionality, I really don't think that you would be disappointed by picking up the Kitchen utility folder. I like the overall shape. If it wasn't called the Kitchen utility folder, I honestly think that that name might give it a little bit of a stigma. If it wasn't called that and it was just called the KUF and that was it, and there was no explanation behind it, people would just go, that is a really cool looking practical folder. They wouldn't look at it and call it a tactical folder. It doesn't have a tactical look to it, and they may not really know how to designate it. But by Leon saying, hey, this really is made to be, and maybe not for the kitchen, but kitchen style cutting, doing that sort of thing in a knife that still has a pocket clip and the strength of a frame lock, something that you can carry every day in or out of the kitchen, well, that's pretty damn awesome. And one thing before I go, I should talk to you about the packaging. You will get the Liong Mah Designs packaging. Inside will be your card. You'll get a cool vinyl patch for those of you that like to collect patches. You'll get the microfiber cloth, and that's it. Nice soft lined case on the inside, and that's pretty much it. I apologize for that being an afterthought, but if I didn't do it, somebody would have asked, well, what kind of packaging does it come in? Well, there you go. All right, that's it for me. I'm out of here. This ran way longer than I expected. I'll catch you guys on the next video.